So my name is Florence Bouvy. I'm the director of Till the End of the World. I think it all kind of blends. So from a very young age, I was writing a lot and acting. And my dad was a filmmaker, and I would sit in he had an edit room in our house. And I would sit with him and learn about editing from a very early age. And so I feel like for me it's always been kind of mixed with each other, and I've just enjoyed storytelling from a very early age, whether that was through, acting myself and doing a monologue, or writing a story for my parents, or when I got a little bit older, when I got a camera to shoot my own little movies. But I didn't make the shift onto directing and film directing in a more serious way until I was older, so 21, because I felt like it combined all these elements of storytelling that I really enjoyed. Yes, I didn't finish philosophy, but yeah, of course, I just really enjoy any type of way that I can deepen my understanding of life and the way that we work as humans. And philosophy is a very interesting science because it makes you aware of the constructs and the thought constructs that make up our world. And so it helped me open up in looking at our own world and reflecting on that. So I think that philosophy in that sense, I still use it daily, the things that I learned, but as a human, mostly. And I feel like when you're making a film, everything that you learn, whether it's maybe you learn one day about how to paint a wall, and you will probably see that it will end up in your film because it's all so connected. That's what I believe. This was part of our graduation project. So I studied at the Dutch Film Academy, which is 4 years, and in your fourth year you make a graduation film. Within that context, we wrote this screenplay and we pitched it. And the Film Academy has a couple of ties to, for instance, the Dutch networks. So in the beginning of your process, you will pitch it to the networks, and the network will buy your film, and they will also guide you through the process. And then we also did crowdfunding, and obviously everybody that worked on the film was a student. So in that sense, the budget could stay quite low, because everyone was working on it as a graduation project. Yes, she's absolutely lovely and talented and open, so it was wonderful to work with her. I think that the most important thing that I did was, as we were shooting, I talked it over with the crew. I wanted to really build the scenes on set, so we didn't do a lot of rehearsing in the traditional way, where you kind of work out a scene and then you replicate it on the set. So we did do rehearsals, mostly for her to get acquainted with the father and for me to get acquainted with how she works and how I can get her to certain places. But I didn't tell her anything about the story. I didn't show her the script. I didn't let her rehearse any lines. And I literally, as we were building it on the set, we would already start shooting, because my experience is with a child that when you get that moment of reality, they are not trained actors, so they will not be able to replicate it. So you want to be there. You want to have the camera rolling at that moment. I would mostly tell her, I would talk during the shooting a lot. So the sound designer had a lot of work on that, because during every take you will hear me talking and saying, you know, like you feel spiders running over your body, or like your whole body stiffens, you know. So very physical assignments constantly. And then what I did explain to her was the essence of the story for me, which is you have a father that you, or Marie has a father that she loves very much, and he's the best father in the world. And sometimes he gets sick, he becomes mean, and that makes her very sad. I avoided the whole topic of alcoholism and addiction with her, but it was also completely irrelevant, because the story is exactly this. It's exactly this essence of you love someone and sometimes they are mean to you. Yeah, so for me there was an important, you know, undercurrent in the film, which is the father, Boudewijn, teaches his daughter how to dream, and this is one of the most important gifts that he gives her in her life. So the fact that he teaches her about this kind of magical reality, and that they have this playful dreamlike world, and they have this ship where they have all these fantasies of travel and of this kind of limitless way of living. And that is contrasted by, as she is now in this stage of her life where she's growing up and she's relating to the world in a new way, and he has this addiction that is harmful to that fantasy. It's kind of this fight between reality and fantasy. So he teaches her how to dream, but in the film you see how reality kind of kicks in and wins over. So that's an important layer for me. The ship and the you know, that's also why we called it Till the End of the World, because there's in this dreaming, there's this idea of, you know, this fantasy of we can do anything, and as I said, the world is limitless, and at the same time, you know, it's this worn down ship that if you would put it in the water, it would sink right away, and it's literally stuck on land. So they're dreaming about this freedom, and at the same time they're stuck. Also, that's related to this idea that they will travel to the end of the world. It's almost like you're going up until that, you know, like the idea of if the world is flat and you get to the border and you fall off, you know, like together they go to this place which is very dangerous and at the same time almost, you know, magical and adventurous, but there's a high price to pay. I wrote this together with a screenwriter, Jessie Tiemeyer. I've personally experienced, and many people in the crew have either experienced or witnessed close by the effects of addiction on families. I feel like very often when a story is about addiction, it becomes very much about these like kind of cliche concepts, where for me and Jessie, we really wanted to focus on the underlying love and fight of two people that want to love each other, and the need of a child to feel safe and to be loved, to have this unconditional love. I believe that even if you have not experienced this, you can relate to this need as a child, and I believe that we all in our own way have struggled and fought for the need to feel safe. And so that's why we really wanted to tell this perspective. Yeah, so first of all, I don't believe it should ever be the responsibility of a child to save their parents. That should never fall on their shoulders. It happens sometimes, but they should never feel this burden or this responsibility. We see how she has grown, and we see that she has become very strong in this process. At the same time, we do see how the reality has won from the fantasy a little bit. So as we see that on the one hand she has matured, there is also a part of this childlike openness that is lost. For me, the ending is very two-sided. I'm not sure if it's there is no answer to will he stop drinking? When will he stop drinking? How will this end? That's their story, and we don't know, and we can have our own reflections, and I think that those reflections tell us more about who we are and how we are experiencing life at this moment than about them. So maybe if I watch it today, I will think, yeah, they will get out of this. And maybe if I watch it in 2 years, I will say, never. But of course, if you're asking me if there's hope, yes, there's hope. There's always hope. Because I believe very strongly in love. But I'm also not going to tell a story where I'm going to pretend like it's easy. It's something that's bigger than a lot of us. For me, the most impactful moment that I will always remember is when we shot the scene where she cries. Obviously, it was a very magical moment because it was so beautiful, and we did it in 2 takes. And the first take she didn't cry, and then the second take I gave her a little I gave her like a little bit of a comment before, which had mostly to do with, you know, that she was safe and that we were all around her. And that I wanted to, that for me she didn't have to cry, but I wanted her to really hear how he was yelling. And I said, because it doesn't matter if you cry or if you don't cry, but, you know, with acting, if I see that you're hearing him yell, that's all I need in your eyes, because then I know it's real. And this is where her amazing talent comes in, that she knows how to do that and still do the scene, because she did everything we rehearsed as she was crying. You know, as it came over her, that's when she started acting, because yes, the emotion is real, and then she takes that, she says her lines, she gets the pencils and she throws them at him. So that's, for me, that's the ultimate moment of acting. And what was so beautiful is, you know, afterwards, as I yelled cut, you know, I rushed over to her, I held her, I immediately put on some music, you know, and like we started dancing. But we were shooting in this like really tiny house, like really tiny, so half of the crew had to be outside constantly because there was just no room. And so we were very close with each other, and you know, many of the people who were working on the set were like these big, you know, technical guys. So like, you know, the lighting guy and the sound guy, and there was a production designer. And as we stopped and I held her and I looked around and I see all of these guys just crying, you know, and I was also, you know, obviously, because everyone was just like so moved at that moment by her power and the rawness of that moment, and we were all witnessing something so incredibly, you know, magical and vulnerable. So I think that's for me like the most amazing experience. And if there's one of these moments, I feel like the film has already had its audience, you know, and so whatever comes out now, whatever comes out of the edit, whatever happens when it gets screened, those 10 people at that moment watching that scene in real life, they experienced the film. The story has at least been told once now.